The trading station floated in the neutral zone between 3 different star systems. Ships from dozens of species docked at its ports every day. Merchants haggled over prices. Diplomats held secret meetings. Travelers rested before their next journey. It was a place of peace. It's protected by ancient treaties. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the main marketplace, her brown eyes scanning the contract display. She was a human merchant, owner of a small cargo ship called the Wandering Star. Her business was simple. She moved goods from one planet to another. Nothing illegal. Nothing dangerous. Just honest work. Across the table sat 3 Krell merchants. They looked like giant insects, with hard shells covering their bodies and 4 arms each. Their compound eyes reflected rainbow colors in the station lights. The Krell were known across the galaxy as tough negotiators, but fair ones. The price is acceptable. The lead Krell merchant clicked in his language. Sarah's translator earpiece converted his words to English. We will transfer the credits now. Sarah smiled and extended her hand. The Krell merchant touched her palm with one of his claws, sealing the deal. It was a good contract. She would transport medical supplies to a mining colony on the edge of Krell space. The pay would keep her crew fed for 3 months. Pleasure doing business with you, Sarah said. The peaceful moment shattered like glass. Heavy footsteps echoed across the marketplace. Conversation stopped. People turned to look. A group of Krell soldiers marched toward them, their armor gleaming black and purple. They moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being challenged. At the center of the group walked Commander Zixthar. He was larger than normal Krell, with scars across his shell that told stories of many battles. Medals hung from his chest plate. His rank insignia marked him as a high commander in the Krell military fleet. The merchant Krell immediately lowered their heads in submission. Sarah noticed their fear and felt her stomach tighten. Something was wrong, Commander, the lead merchant whispered. We were just completing a transaction. Zixthar ignored the merchants. His multifaceted eyes focused on Sarah. He moved closer, studying her like she was an insect under glass. Sarah stood her ground, keeping her expression neutral. She had learned long ago that showing fear in space was dangerous. A human, Zixthar said, his voice dripping with contempt. I have heard about your species. Weak, soft. You come from a backwater planet and pretend to be equals in our galaxy. Sarah took a slow breath. I'm just a merchant commander. I mean no disrespect? You mean no disrespect? Zixthar laughed, a harsh clicking sound. You exist in our space, breathe our air, and profit from our trade routes. Your very presence is disrespect. Around them, other species watched. A group of bird-like avians whispered among themselves. Some reptilian saurians recorded the scene with their devices. A few aquatic beings in mobile water tanks observed from a distance. This was becoming a public spectacle. Sarah's crew stood nearby. Marcus, her first officer, took a step forward. Sarah raised her hand slightly, stopping him. She could handle this. I have proper permits, Sarah said calmly. I follow all regulations. I'm not looking for trouble, Commander. Not looking for trouble? Zixthar moved closer, towering over her. Humans were shorter than most galactic species. You humans think you can just walk into civilized space and demand respect. You have done nothing to earn it. You are primitives playing at being equals. The marketplace had gone completely silent. Even the background hum of the station seemed to fade. Everyone watched to see what would happen next. Sarah felt the old instincts rising inside her. The training she thought she had left behind on Earth? The combat reflexes that had kept her alive during the border wars? She pushed them down, maintaining her calm exterior. I apologize if I've offended you, Commander, she said quietly. That was not my intention. Her apology seemed to enrage him further. In Krell culture, apologies from prey species were seen as weakness, not politeness. Your intention? Zixthar's voice rose. Your intention means nothing. His claw came up fast. The slap connected with Sarah's face, snapping her head to the side. The sound echoed across the marketplace like a gunshot. Sarah stumbled back a step, her cheek burning. She tasted blood in her mouth. The watching crowd gasped. Some species saw this as a normal dominance display. Others recognized it as a serious insult. A few, the ones who knew human history better, went very still. Sarah straightened slowly. She touched her cheek, felt the wetness of blood. Her split lip throbbed. But it was not the physical pain that mattered. It was something deeper. Something primal that Zixthar had just awakened. Marcus started forward, rage on his face. The other crew members moved, but Sarah held up her hand again, stopping them all. She turned to face Zixthar. Her eyes had changed. The fear was gone. The merchant's friendly expression was gone. What remained was something cold and ancient. Something that had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain through millions of years of evolution. The station fell absolutely silent. Even Zixthar seemed to notice the change. Though he did not understand what it meant, Sarah spoke, her voice quiet but carrying across the entire marketplace. Each word was precise, measured, final. 5 seconds. That is all the time you have left. Zixthar laughed. His soldiers laughed. They thought it was a joke. They would learn their mistake very soon. The countdown had begun. Part 2. The response. 10 years earlier. On Earth, Lieutenant Sarah Chen moved through the jungle like a ghost. Rain poured down, but she barely noticed. Her unit was 3 days into a rescue mission. Pirates had taken hostages from a civilian transport, dragging them to a hidden base in the Amazon region. The pirates were heavily armed. They had military-grade weapons and shields. But they made one mistake. They thought Earth soldiers fought like other species in the galaxy. Stand in formation. Trade shots. Follow rules. They learned differently. Sarah's unit hit them at dawn, using tactics developed over thousands of years of human warfare. Guerrilla strikes. Psychological pressure. Rapid movement. The pirates surrendered within an hour, not because they were outgunned, but because they were terrified. One pirate leader, Saurian mercenary, asked Sarah a question before being taken away. How do your species fight like demons, but protect the innocent like angels? Sarah had answered simply, because we know what it means to survive. That was before she retired. Before she became a merchant. Before she tried to leave the violence behind. Now, standing in the marketplace with blood on her lips, Sarah remembered everything. Zixthar was still laughing when Sarah moved to the watching crowd. It looked like she simply disappeared. One moment she stood before the Krell commander. The next, she was beside him. Human reflexes, developed on a high-gravity world with dangerous predators, operated faster than most species could track. Her fist struck Zixthar's throat joint, the weak point where his shell segments connected. He gagged, stumbling backward. His bodyguards reached for their weapons. But Sarah was already moving again. She spun low, sweeping the legs of the nearest guard. As he fell, she took his plasma blade from his belt in one smooth motion. The weapon activated with a hum, glowing purple in her hand. 2 seconds had passed. Zixthar recovered faster than expected, his military training showing. He drew his own blade and charged, using a size advantage. But size meant nothing if you could not land a hit. Sarah slipped sideways, letting his momentum carry him past her. She struck the back of his knee joint, and he crashed to the ground. His armor was strong, but joints always had weaknesses. Any soldier knew that. 3 seconds. The other guards opened fire. Energy bolts sizzled through the air. Sarah moved between them like water flowing around stones. Her combat training had included something called flow state, where the body moved without conscious thought. She had spent years mastering it. She disarmed one guard with a strike to his weapon hand, used another guard as a shield against incoming fire, rolled under a blade strike, and came up behind her attacker. Every movement was efficient, precise, deadly. 4 seconds. Zixthar rose to his feet, rage filling his eyes. He charged again, blade raised high. It was a mistake. Anger made you predictable. Sarah had learned that lesson a long time ago. She stepped inside his strike range, too close for his blade to be effective. Her own stolen blade came up in a precise arc. The plasma edge sliced through his neck joint. It's the one spot where his armor could not protect him. 5 seconds. Zixtar's head separated from his body. The plasma blade had cauterized the wound instantly, preventing blood spray. His body stood for a moment, then collapsed. His head rolled across the marketplace floor. Compound eyes still reflecting rainbow colors. The entire fight had lasted exactly 5 seconds. Just as Sarah had promised, she stood over the body, breathing normally. The plasma blade hummed in her hand, then she deactivated it and dropped it. Around her, Zixtar's guards lay groaning on the ground, disarmed but alive. She had not killed them. They were just following orders. The marketplace remained frozen in shocked silence. Sarah turned slowly, looking at the gathered crowd. Aliens from dozens of species stared back at her. Some with fear, some with fascination, all with new understanding. Station security finally arrived, weapons drawn. They surrounded Sarah but seemed unsure what to do. The security chief, a 4-armed Nexian, approached carefully. "Captain Chen," he said slowly, "you need to come with us." Sarah nodded. She made no move to resist. "I understand, but check your security footage." He struck first. I responded in self-defense. "That may be," the Nexian replied, "but you just killed a Krell military commander. This will have consequences." "I know," Sarah said quietly. She looked at her crew. Marcus stood with his mouth open, shocked. The others looked equally stunned. "Marcus, contact Earth's embassy. Tell them what happened." Security led her away. Sarah looked back at Zixtar's body one final time. She felt no joy in the kill, no pride. Just a deep sadness that it had been necessary. She had come to space seeking peace. She had tried to leave the soldier behind. But the galaxy had reminded her of a simple truth. Sometimes peace must be defended. Sometimes kindness must have teeth. The crowd parted as security escorted her away. She heard whispers in dozens of languages, saw recordings being uploaded to the Galactic Network, felt the weight of what had just happened settling on her shoulders in the span of 5 seconds. Sarah Chen had changed everything. She had shown the galaxy something they did not know about humans, something they would not forget. Deathworlders could be peaceful merchants, could be friendly traders, could be diplomatic and kind. But when pushed, when threatened, when struck without cause, they remembered what they were. They were survivors from a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years, and they had won. The message would spread across the galaxy by morning. Already, news ships were preparing their broadcasts. Already, governments were calling emergency meetings. Already, military analysts were reviewing the footage frame by frame. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the loudest way possible, and the galaxy would never see them. It's the same way again. Part 3. The fallout. The Galactic Council chambers on Central Station were designed to impress. The ceiling rose 50 meters high, covered in holographic displays showing every member species. Representatives from 200 civilizations sat in curved rows, each at their designated position. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some needed gravity, others preferred to float. The council had spent centuries making this chamber work for everyone today. That careful peace was threatened. Ambassador Kenji Yamamoto from Earth stood at the central podium. He was an older human, his hair gray, his face lined with experience. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed the security footage from the marketplace. The entire 5-second fight played on repeat. "The footage speaks for itself," Kenji said, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. Commander Zixtar struck Captain Chen without provocation. She defended herself using proportional force. Proportional. The Krell ambassador rose from his seat, his shell gleaming red with rage. She decapitated a high commander of our fleet. She murdered him in cold blood. "With respect," Kenji replied, "your commander assaulted a civilian merchant in a neutral zone. Under galactic law, she had every right to defend herself." The council chamber erupted in argument. Species took sides. Some supported Earth, seeing the clear assault on the footage. Others sided with the Krell, viewing the lethal response as excessive. Many remained silent, calculating which position would benefit them most. Counselor Vexera, the neutral chairwoman, struck her resonance staff 3 times. The sound waves rippled through the chamber, demanding silence. She was an ancient being, her species having founded the council millennia ago. When she spoke, everyone listened. "We will have order," she commanded. "Ambassador Yamamoto, continue your defense." Kenji nodded. "Thank you, Counselor. I want to address the elephant in the room." He paused, noting the confused looks from species unfamiliar with Earth's expressions. "The real issue. Everyone here is not just concerned about this incident. They are concerned about what it revealed." He pressed a button on his podium. The holographic display changed, showing data files about Earth. For 50 years, humans have been part of the galactic community. We have been quiet, friendly. We followed all protocols. We traded peacefully. We avoided conflicts. Many of you thought you understood us. The data began scrolling faster. Military assessments, planetary surveys, historical records. But now, you are reviewing your intelligence files on Earth. You are seeing things you ignored before. Our planet's gravity is 1.5 times the galactic standard. Our atmospheric pressure would crush most species. Our temperature ranges from frozen wastelands to boiling deserts. Our world is covered in predators, poisons, diseases, and natural disasters. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many representatives pulled up their own data tablets, confirming his words. "You are realizing," Kenji continued, "that Earth is what galactic classification calls a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating possible, and humans are apex predators who evolved there." A young analyst from the Avian Confederation stood, her feathers rustling nervously. "Ambassador, our intelligence suggests humans are persistence hunters. Is this true?" "Yes," Kenji confirmed. "Our ancestors hunted prey by chasing them for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We evolved to run long distances in extreme heat, to track wounded animals across vast territories, to never stop pursuing our target." The chamber went very quiet. "You are also discovering," Kenji added, "that humans have something called an adrenaline response. When threatened, our bodies release chemicals that increase our speed, strength, and pain tolerance. We become faster and more dangerous when fighting for survival." The Krell ambassador slammed his claws on his desk. "This proves humans are too dangerous. They should be restricted to their own system." "No," a new voice interrupted. Everyone turned to see who dared speak without permission. An elderly Krell stood in the visitors' gallery. His shell was scarred from countless battles. Medals covered his chest, including the highest honor in Krell society, the mark of the Eternal Warrior. This was War Master Krexith, a legend among his people. Vexera looked surprised but nodded permission for him to speak. "War Master, you have the floor." Krexith moved slowly to the speaking platform. "I have studied the footage many times. I have studied human history, and I must speak truth, even though it shames my people." The Krell ambassador looked horrified. "War Master, you do not need to silence," Krexith commanded. The ambassador sat down immediately. "Commander Zixahar violated every honor code we hold sacred. He struck an unarmed merchant. He attacked first without cause. He disgraced himself and our people. He turned to face the full council. Under Krell law, when someone dishonors themselves through unprovoked violence, the victim has the right to lethal response. This is our oldest tradition. Commander Zixthar knew this law. Captain Chen's action was not murder. It was justice." The chamber exploded into shocked conversation. The Krell ambassador looked like he might collapse. Other Krell representatives argued among themselves, some agreeing with the War Master, others calling him a traitor. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the footage had spread everywhere. News networks played it constantly. Social media platforms overflowed with commentary. Billions of beings watched Sarah, Jin's 5-second fight. The reactions were mixed. Some species saw humans as dangerous monsters, calling for restrictions on human travel. Others saw them as powerful potential allies, sending diplomatic requests to Earth. Many simply felt fear at what they had witnessed, but something else was happening too. Something unexpected. Small species, the ones bullied by larger powers, began reaching out to human merchants and security contractors. Mining colonies that suffered from pirate raids requested human guards. Trade convoys asked for human escorts. Civilian stations wanted human security personnel. They had seen something important in that footage. Yes, Sarah was deadly when threatened, but she had not killed the other guards. She had disarmed them, injured them, but let them live. She had shown restraint even in combat. Humans were dangerous but controlled. Deadly but selective. They could kill efficiently, but chose not to when possible. In a galaxy where many powerful species used force carelessly, that combination was rare and valuable. Back in the council chambers, Vexara struck her staff again. We will reassess for 3 days while we review all evidence. Ambassador Yamamoto, your people are not to leave Central Station until we reach a verdict. Understood. Counselor Kenji replied. As the representatives filed out, he checked his personal communicator. Messages from Earth's government filled his screen. Public opinion polls. Military readiness reports. Diplomatic cables from dozens of species. One message stood out. It was from Sarah Chen, still imprisoned on the station awaiting trial. I am sorry for the trouble I have caused. I never wanted this attention. I just wanted to live peacefully, but I will not apologize for defending myself. Whatever happens next, I can live with it. Kenji smiled sadly. Sarah Chen had no idea what she had started. Her 5-second fight had changed everything. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way. Again, the question was whether that change would lead to war or something better. The next 3 days would decide the future of human-alien relations, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the Krell military fleet was mobilizing, preparing for whatever came next. Part 4. Escalation and Understanding the Krell. War fleet emerged from hyperspace like predators from the deep. 20 warships, their hulls gleaming. Black and purple arranged themselves in attack formation. At their center, the flagship Relentless Honor dwarfed all other vessels. Its weapons could crack a planet's crust. Admiral Dexerone stood on the command bridge, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. Status report. All ships in position, Admiral, his tactical officer responded. Earth's outer colony of New Vancouver lies 3 hours ahead at current speed. Good. Send the message to the Galactic Council. The Krell Empire demands the immediate surrender of the human Sarah Chen. If she is not delivered to us within 12 hours, we will consider it an act of war. The message transmitted across the galaxy. Within minutes, every major government received it. Panic spread through diplomatic channels. On Central Station, Ambassador Kenji received the news with his worst fears confirmed. He immediately requested an emergency meeting with Sarah, who was being held in a high-security detention center. The guards led him to her cell. Sarah sat calmly on the bench, reading a data tablet. She looked up when he entered. Ambassador, she said, standing respectfully. I heard about the fleet, Captain Chen. Kenji sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 60 years. I need you to understand the situation. Krell are demanding your surrender. If we refuse, they will attack New Vancouver. 30,000 colonists live there. Sarah's face remained calm, but Kenji saw her hands tighten slightly. How long do I have? The council is still debating. Some species support Earth. Others want to avoid war at any cost. But paused, struggling with the words. The majority opinion is leaning towards surrendering you to prevent bloodshed. I understand, Sarah said quietly. 30,000 lives versus 1. The math is clear. Captain, if they take you, they will not give you a trial. They will execute you publicly as an example. I know. Sarah looked out the small window of her cell at the stars beyond. But I have been a soldier, ambassador. I understand sacrifice. If my death prevents a war, then that is a price worth paying. Kenji felt his throat tighten. I am sorry. I have failed you. No, Sarah smiled sadly. You fought for me. That is enough. Tell my crew. Tell them I am proud to have served with them. Tell Marcus he gets the ship. He will be a good captain. Before Kenji could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. A voice came over the intercom. Security breach in detention level 5. All units respond. Hostile forces attacking prisoner transport. Kenji and Sarah looked at each other in shock. That was her detention level. The cell door burst open. A Krell warrior stood there, but something was wrong. He wore black armor instead of military purple. A mercenary, not a soldier. The human dies here, he hissed, raising a plasma rifle. Sarah moved instantly, grabbing Kenji and pulling him behind the cell bench. The plasma bolt sizzled over their heads, melting the back wall. Assassins, Sarah said grimly. The Krell military wants me taken alive for trial, but someone else wants me dead right now. More attackers appeared in the corridor. Station security guards engaged them in a firefight. Prisoners in other cells screamed in panic. Chaos erupted throughout the detention center. Sarah looked around the cell, her combat training assessing options. Ambassador, stay down. I need to. An explosion rocked the facility. Cell's force field flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, but the damage was done. Cell doors throughout the level opened automatically. Safety feature to prevent prisoners from being trapped. Dozens of prisoners emerged, confused and frightened. They were from many different species, held for various minor crimes. Most were not violent criminals, just people who had made mistakes. The Krell assassins did not care. They opened fire indiscriminately, trying to create chaos that would let them reach Sarah. That was their fatal mistake. Sarah. Chen had tried to leave the soldier behind, had tried to be just a peaceful merchant. But when innocent people were threatened, when the helpless needed protection, the old instincts returned. She grabbed a fallen guard's shock baton and charged into the corridor. What happened next would be analyzed by military tacticians for years. Sarah moved through the firefight like a dancer through a performance. She disarmed assassins, protected cowering prisoners, coordinated with station security using hand signals learned in her military days. A small group of prisoners found themselves pinned down between two groups of assassins. Sarah reached them first, placing herself between the civilians and the killers. Among those prisoners was a young avian female named Shiari, imprisoned for minor smuggling. She would later describe what she witnessed to news networks across the galaxy. The human put herself between us and the attackers. She had only a shock baton against plasma rifles. She should have died. But she moved like liquid metal, faster than my eyes could follow. She took 3 hits that should have killed her, but kept fighting. When it was over, 8 assassins lay unconscious, and we were all alive. She was bleeding from burns across her arm and shoulder, but she asked if we were okay. She protected us. Total strangers, criminals even. She protected us. Station security finally secured the area. Medical teams rushed in. Sarah collapsed as the adrenaline faded, her injuries catching up to her. The medics stabilized her, treating plasma burns and exhaustion. Captain Raxel of station security stood over her as medics worked. He was a veteran Nexian officer, 30 years on the job. He had seen everything. Captain Chen, he said quietly. Why did you protect them? Those prisoners are not your people. Some are criminals. You could have used the chaos to escape. Sarah, her voice weak from pain, answered simply, they were in danger. That is enough. The footage of Sarah protecting the prisoners spread as quickly as the original fight video. But this time, the galactic reaction was different. This was not a Deathworlder killing a threat. This was a Deathworlder protecting the vulnerable, fighting not for herself, but for others. Taking injuries to save strangers, public opinion shifted like a tide turning. The small species, the peaceful ones, who lived in fear of bullies and pirates, saw a new truth. Humans were not mindless killing machines. They were protectors, warriors with hearts. Dangerous but compassionate. Requests for human security personnel increased tenfold overnight, and in the Krell fleet, Admiral Lexerone received unexpected orders from his homeworld. The message came From War Master Krexith himself, now speaking with the authority of the Krell Honor Council. Admiral, the assassination attempt was ordered by Commander Zixtar's family, seeking revenge without honor. They have been arrested. You are to stand down. That human Sarah Chen fought with honor. She has shown herself to be a true warrior, protecting the weak while punishing the unjust. The Krell Empire withdraws its demand for her surrender. Thexerone read the message twice, hardly believing it. Well, then he began laughing, a clicking sound of genuine amusement. Tactical officer, he ordered. Set course back to Krell space. A message to the Council. Admiral Dexerone requests permission to extend an official apology to Captain Sarah. Janan, behalf of the Krell military. As the fleet turned away, the crisis ended as suddenly as it had begun. Earth's colony was safe. War was averted. And Sarah Chen, lying in a medical bay recovering from her wounds, had no idea that she had just changed the galaxy again. This time, not through violence, but through the simple act of protecting those who could not protect themselves. Part 5. Resolution and Legacy. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council reconvened for final judgment. The chamber was packed. News crews from every major species filled the media sections. Diplomatic observers crowded the galleries. Everyone wanted to witness the conclusion of the Sarah Chen case. Sarah stood at the defendant's podium, her burns healed, but scars remaining on her arm. She wore simple civilian clothes, refusing the formal attire her lawyers suggested. Marcus and her crew sat in the support section, their faces tense with worry. Counselor Vexara struck her resonant staff. This council has reviewed all evidence, heard all testimony, and considered the implications for galactic law. We will now hear final statements before rendering judgment. The Krell ambassador stood first, but to everyone's surprise, it was not the same representative who had demanded Sarah's execution. War Master Krexeth himself took the podium.
Counselors.
His voice was grave but respectful. I speak for the Krell Empire and the Honor Council. We have reviewed Commander Zixtar's actions thoroughly. He violated multiple honor codes by striking an unarmed civilian merchant without provocation. Under Krell law, which dates back 10,000 years, such dishonorable assault gives the victim the right to lethal response. He turned to face Sarah directly. Captain Chen, you acted within the bounds of our law. It's more than that, you acted with honor. When assassins attacked innocent prisoners, you protected them despite your own injuries. Showed the true mark of a warrior. Strength tempered by compassion. He performed a Krell bow, lowering his head and crossing his forearms. It was the highest sign of respect his species could offer. The Krell Empire formally apologizes for Commander Zixtar's actions. We withdraw all charges. We recognize your right to self-defense. And we offer you honorary membership in our warrior caste, a title given to only 3 non-Krell in our history. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. The War Master's statement changed everything. When order returned, Ambassador Kenji stood to speak for Earth. Captain Chen has served her species honorably, both as a soldier and as a civilian. She never sought conflict. She attempted to de-escalate the situation with Commander Zixtar. She responded only when left with no choice. Earth stands behind her completely. Several other species added their support. The Avian Confederation, led by testimony from the prisoner Shiari, whom Sarah had protected. The Aquatic Coalition, citing human rescue operations that had saved their colonists from pirate raids. Even some of the smaller Krell houses, embarrassed by Zixtar's dishonor. Finally, Vexara called for the vote. 200 representatives entered their decisions into the system. The holographic display showed the results in real time. Guilty. 12 votes not. Guilty. 188 votes. Sarah felt her legs go weak with relief. Marcus cheered from the gallery, quickly silenced by security, but grinning widely. Captain Sarah Chen, Vexara, announced formally, "This council finds you not guilty of all charges. You acted in legitimate self-defense under galactic law. You are free to go." The chamber filled with applause from many species. But Vexara was not finished. However, she continued, "This case has revealed important gaps in our laws. We have species from hundreds of worlds, each with different capabilities, reflexes, and threat responses. What seems proportional to one species may seem extreme to another. She gestured at the holographic display, which showed footage of Sarah protecting the prisoners. Captain Chen has demonstrated something crucial. Deathworld species can be both powerful and protective, dangerous and compassionate. We must update our legal framework to reflect these realities. Over the following month, the Council passed new legislation collectively called the Deathworlder Protection Protocols. The laws recognized that species from high gravity, dangerous worlds had evolved faster reflexes and greater combat capability. Threats against them would be evaluated based on their perspective, not the attacker's intent. But more importantly, laws established protections for Deathworld species against discrimination. They could not be restricted from travel or commerce simply because they were physically capable of harm. Their rights as galactic citizens were confirmed. Sarah returned to her ship, expecting to resume her merchant career. Instead, she found dozens of contract offers waiting. Mining colonies wanted human security. Trade convoys requested human guards. Even some governments asked for human military advisors. Captain Marcus said, reviewing the offers, "We could be rich. These contracts pay 10 times what we made hauling cargo." Sarah looked at the requests. Many came from small species, peaceful ones who lived in fear of pirates and raiders. They had seen her protect those prisoners. They believed humans could protect them too. "We are not warriors anymore, Marcus," she said softly. "Maybe not," Marcus replied. "But we are still protectors." That never changed. Sarah thought about her past, about the soldiers she had served with during the border wars. Many were like her, tired and trying to find purpose in civilian life. Some struggled with the transition. Some felt lost without the mission. An idea began forming. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the main hall of a new facility on a neutral station. Around her, 20 humans in instructor uniforms waited. They were all veterans, all former soldiers who had tried to leave the violence behind, but found themselves missing the sense of purpose. In front of them stood 60 trainees from a dozen different species, young beings who wanted to learn security work, who wanted to protect instead of harm, who saw the value in controlled strength. "Welcome to Guardian Academy," Sarah announced to the assembled group. "We are not training you to be killers. We are training you to be protectors. You will learn combat skills, yes, but more importantly, you will learn restraint, judgment, compassion. You will learn when not to fight." She walked among the trainees, seeing their eager faces. "I come from a death world. Earth tried to kill my species for millions of years. We survived by becoming strong, fast, and dangerous. But we also learned something else: the value of cooperation, the importance of protecting the weak, the power of choosing mercy over revenge." She stopped at the center of the hall. "That is what we will teach you here. To be strong but gentle, deadly but selective. To understand that true power lies not in the ability to harm, but in the choice not to harm when you could." The training program became hugely successful. Within a year, Guardian Academy had expanded to 5 locations across neutral space. Graduates found work protecting colonies, escorting convoys, providing security for peaceful species. Sarah's reputation grew. She became known across the galaxy not as the human who killed a Krell commander, but as the human who protected the helpless, as the warrior who chose peace but could defend it when necessary. One day, young avian cadet approached her after class. "Instructor Chen, I have a question. Are all humans like you?" Sarah smiled. "That is complicated. Humans are individuals. Some are peaceful. Some are aggressive. Some are brave. Some are cowardly. We are not all the same." "But your species comes from a death world," the cadet pressed. "Does that not make you all warriors?" "No," Sarah said gently. "It makes us all survivors. There is a difference. A warrior seeks conflict. A survivor seeks peace, but can fight when necessary. Earth taught us to survive, but we chose what kind of survivors to be." She looked out the window at the stars beyond. "My people learned that true strength is not about dominating others. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, about standing between the innocent and those who would harm them, about having the power to destroy but choosing to build instead. The cadet considered this. That is why the small species trust humans. They see you as dangerous protectors rather than dangerous threats. Exactly, Sarah nodded. We are from a death world. That means we understand death intimately. We know how precious life is because we fought so hard to keep ours. That understanding makes us value life more, not less. Years passed. Guardian Academy trained thousands of security personnel from hundreds of species. Human veterans found new purpose as instructors. The galaxy learned that Deathworld species could be the best protectors precisely because they were so dangerous. Sarah Chen eventually retired again, this time passing leadership of the Academy to Marcus. She returned to Earth, to a quiet house in the mountains where she could see both sunrise and sunset, but she never forgot the lesson she had learned in those 5 seconds on the trading station, the lesson she had taught to thousands of students afterward. Power without compassion is tyranny. Compassion without power is helplessness. But power and compassion together, strength tempered by wisdom, force guided by mercy, that was the highest achievement. Humans were from a death world. They had evolved to be survivors, fighters, predators, but they had also evolved to be social, cooperative, and protective. Both aspects were equally important. The galaxy had learned to fear human strength, but they had also learned to trust human hearts. And in the end, that made all the difference. Sarah sat on her porch as the sun set over the mountains, sipping tea and reading messages from former students. They sent pictures of the people they had protected, stories of the conflicts they had prevented. Thanks for the lessons they had learned, she smiled, content she had gone to space seeking peace, had found violence instead. But through that violence, had discovered a new purpose, had shown the galaxy that humans could be both warriors and guardians, both dangerous and gentle, both feared and trusted. The 5 seconds that changed everything had led to this, a legacy of protection, of strength used wisely, of power wielded with compassion. And that, Sarah thought as the stars began appearing in the darkening sky, was a legacy worth having. The end.